Hello, good evening, welcome to UPfront. Tonight, Parliament's Finance Committee has been locked up in a massive meeting. We will give you an indication of what's going to happen. All of this is linked to this collapse of 7 banks in the Republic of Ghana. They are actually envisaging a massive probe, a probe that will unearth all the hidden issues on this particular matter. What are the details of this particular meeting? I've dragged one of those on the Finance Committee who has complete appreciation of finance issues to here into the studios of UPfront to give us the details on this. And the other happenings in the Republic of Ghana are top on the agenda of tonight's edition of UPfront. My name is Raymond Alqua. We'll be back after this break. Then we just dive into why Parliament is taking upon itself after we know IOCO and other state institutions are probing the same matter to jump in and see to clear the mess in the financial sector. You're welcome back to UPfront. My name is Raymond Alqua. My guest today is a member of the Finance Committee of the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. That particular committee held a meeting today, crunch meeting, to decide whether or not they are going to go ahead with the plan to interrogate the matters of urgency and importance to the people of this republic that is surrounding the collapse of 7 banks in this country. Here in studio with us is the Member of Parliament for Ho Central and also the member of the Parliament's Finance Committee, Honorable Benjamin Podo. You are welcome to UPfront.
Thank you, Raymond, and thank you to all your viewers whom I extend my greetings to. You said you dragged me. You didn't. I came here out of my own free will.
Okay, so interesting. Well, we shall be getting to the details of why he is here, but we will have a consolidated conversation today with so many parts to it. Others from civil society and those in academia will join to find a lasting solution to the problem that's big time on the front of the financial sector in this country. Honorable, let's start from this particular need for a meeting today. We understand it's all surrounding the collapse of these 7 banks. Exactly what are the duties? Was it planned? Was it impromptu? Did you have to engage in an emergency meeting on this matter, especially when the House is on recess?
Yes, you got it right. We were on recess when the Bank of Ghana announced that a consolidated bank, Ghana Limited, was being formed to take over the operations of 5 banks, Unibank, Republic Bank. I think you have the list already.
Yes.
Because their licenses had been revoked and they could no longer operate for very serious financial problems that they found themselves in. So we are already on break and we've had to be called back. And the reason is that as Finance Committee of Parliament, we have responsibility, oversight responsibility for most of the happenings in the financial system. And as representatives of the people, we are concerned that where it has to do with the banking system, we are concerned about the confidence that is deeply waning in the entire system. Confidence is waning? Yes, yes. You know, you take your money to the bank, you wake up. Last year in August, they told you that UT and Capital Bank could not operate. They were taken over by GCB. We all ran helter-skelter. In fact, I was involved. I had to go to Capital Bank on Spintex Road to go and find out how I could get my money back. Oh, you wanted to withdraw? Regardless of the fact that you as a member of Parliament had been told that this takeover was not requiring any emergency moves. You don't know what happened. Do you know that interest rates were reassigned? Whatever you invested your money for at the time that you were with Capital Bank, you couldn't any longer take that interest. So there were a lot of happenings. Really? Yes. Interest rates were revised downwards from about 20, 21, 22, 23 to 12 and a half. I was affected, yes. So, I mean, that's a massive lowdown on the cash. Exactly, exactly. So, although not everything was said, I can tell you that there were losses, even if minimal, to people who invested in Capital Bank. So if somebody has that kind of experience and he wakes up only to hear that Unibank was also going down, you with hindsight, you will also be a little bit shaken. So we all got together through our various means of communication and decided that we needed to meet and look at what's happening. Our concern is to restore confidence in the system, because anything that happens within the banking sector, you know, has a huge bearing on the entire economy. So we as representatives of the people need to be concerned and then take the necessary measures that will restore discipline in the system. That is why we came to meet today.
I have not, and we come to the main agenda for today. I have not heard your views on this particular matter. You were here, right in this studio, when the announcement on UT and Capital Bank's collapse was happening big time. You brought the statement from the minority into the studios, and the issues the minority had raised were pretty much clear to all of us here in the studio. Now, a year down the line, after assurances that the financial sector is now robust, after assurances that this was the last time we were going to have such a collapse happening, 5 more banks follow suit. Did that surprise you?
No, you see, it's not a question of surprising anybody. You know, I think in 2015 and 2016, some audit review was carried out about the bank's assets. Yeah. And that's asset quality review.
Yeah.
Yes, that was carried out. So there was already deep knowledge about those banks that were facing liquidity and other solvency challenges. So several attempts were being made to, you know, rescue them until it became clear that there was no way for redemption of capital and UT, and they had to be taken over under a purchase and assumption agreement by Ghana Commercial Bank, and now we call it GCB Bank. So we knew at that time that even beyond those 2 banks, there were a number of other banks. But to keep sanity in the system a little, nobody was coming out with the names. Nobody came out with the names. The regulator didn't come out. The Minister of Finance didn't come out. Even the auditors didn't come out. So again, it has happened. You want my views. The only thing I can say that is good is that somehow the depositors' monies are protected. That's the main thing. That's the only thing that we can say has been done aright. But there are lots of follow-ups to this which do not spell any good news for the system.
What are these?
Well, you immediately know that there is loss of jobs. You interviewed a former manager, I think
an area
manager of Capital Bank. I listened to your interview, where he lamented, he told his woes after being given the sack, that he has become an Uber driver, if you recall that.
Yes,
interview.
that's very much so.
Now, he's just one of about 70 to 80% of the employees of the 2 banks who were asked to go home. I have a very good colleague who had managed the banks from branch to branch. He's sitting at home now of a Capital Bank, yes. From the days of First Capital Savings and Loan up to First Capital Bank, up to Capital Bank, he has been working over the very experience. But he's now sitting at home. So many people like that have lost their jobs. But it doesn't need any long inquiry, any distant thinking to know that we cannot have 5 managing directors of a consolidated bank. Nobody has to think far, because those banks which collapsed have to, their managers have to give way to the new management of consolidated bank. So the job losses start from the top and will go down. So that is number 1 concern. Number 2, we are worried about, in this particular case, the establishment of a consolidated bank with whose money, 450 million overnight, whose money was used? How was this approval given for 450 million Ghana cedis to be applied to establish a new bank? Then we are also worried about the almost 8 billion. In fact, we think it's about 8 billion.
Yeah.
8 billion Ghana cedis bond that were issued to help the GCB and the consolidated bank to continue to meet the customers' needs on a day-to-day basis. Where from that money? What could it have done for this nation? When by the time we rose in July, we were looking for $2 billion Sino-Hydro loan.
For capital expenditure.
Exactly. The capital expenditure we have in the budget, 6.3 billion. And we are we are raising bonds worth 8 billion Ghana cedis, more than the total capital expenditure in the budget, to sustain these two banks, GCB and Consolidated Bank, so that they can meet their responsibilities to the customers. So we are concerned about all this.
I will come back to this concern.
And we are also concerned about the apparent shift of customers from local businesses to the foreign ones, because the threat is that when you put your money in a local bank, it's likely overnight they will collapse the bank. So you have to go and put your money in a foreign bank now.
Okay.
For greater security.
All right.
That is what is, and you cannot. I saw a joke on one of the WhatsApp platform. Somebody carried digger and was digging a hole in his house so as to
bury the cash.
And keep it safer.
I crave your indulgence. Just give me a second. I'll go to the phone lines and come back to you. Let's head to the University of Cape Coast. Professor John Gachi is an economist, and he joins us on the phone line now. Prof, you're welcome to our front.
Thank you.
There is an urgent matter that the Parliament want to probe. They say that not only is the cause of these banks' collapse urgent and relevant, they not only want to probe government officials, but directly the people who caused this particular mess in the financial sector. Is that a step in the right direction?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction because if Parliament is involved and Parliament statement after the entire process is issued, that can go further to add to the process of restoring confidence in the banking sector. And also, Parliament would have satisfied the people that they are representing, so that certain things were done in a manner that reflected their interest. And also, in some other jurisdictions that this did happen, even from the onset, Parliament was involved, labor unions were involved, government officials involved, and the representatives from the central bank were involved. So the process was very smooth, and at the end of it, they were able to reform their financial sector. Even though we are late, we are coming after a lot of things have been done. But I think it will go a long way to reflect the interests of the people that parliamentarians represent in Parliament.
And I'll ask for some forbearance on this particular matter. If you could just raise your voice a little bit higher for me, I'll be very, very impressed with that. The question I want to ask subsequent to the first of whether or not this is a step in the right direction, would it burst your bubble if the Parliament now tells you that we will do the probe, but we are going to do it in camera, i.e., it's not going to be open to the people of this republic to watch, listen to the reasons why their banks collapse and they find themselves in this difficulty? Is that in the right direction too?
Well, it depends on how Parliament is able to convince Ghanaians because, mind you, some information have been put in the public domain, and it caused public anger. So as to whether in-camera hearings will satisfy Ghanaians, I think we need to test that with the people of Ghana to express their view on that. But I believe if Parliament decides to do it in camera, that is because of the sensitivity of the nature of the entire process. Remember, we are talking about endemic problems in the entire financial sector. And you need to be very careful the way you deal with all these things. But that is the reason why Parliament will want to go through this process in camera. But the most important thing is how much is required by the state to spend as a fiscal cost for the entire process. Is it in the interest of the entire financial market stability? Is it in the interest of the representative of the people? The kind of investigations done, were they done in a manner that reflected proper process and procedure? So those are the things that I think are very important. This in camera will help all of us to get to the right answers posed by the public that will be reflecting in the questions that parliamentarians will be putting across, and Parliament will find a way of refining and summarizing whatever they've gotten and provide to the public. Then that may be acceptable.
There's a question that the minority has started raising already about the kind of this is what they call it, the bailout of a firm, or the amount of money pumped into making sure that we sustain this financial sector. Almost 8 billion for the 7 collapsed banks in the country. The question you're asking is, are there not alternatives, since this amount of money can do very good things for this nation? Are there really alternatives? Could the Bank of Ghana have pursued any other alternative in this case?
Well, I think those things will come up during the probe. Because, for example, is it true that if we look at the nature of what happened in all the 5 banks, all the 5 banks would have been collapsed or consolidated within a day, or 2 or 3 or 1 of them wouldn't have been part of the 5 banks that have been consolidated. So I think that those things should come out as part of the probe.
Okay. The question I want to also ask you related to this is, what exactly should be the focus that the Parliament should actually be looking at? What should be the main things they should be seeking to unravel? What kind of direction will be best for the kind of situation we find ourselves when Parliament finally decides to step into this matter?
I think there are 3 things, 3 areas. Number 1, what is the role, what is the contribution, and what is the scale of contribution to the entire problem by the regulator? Then 2...
You mean the Bank of Ghana?
Yes. Then number 2, the actions taken by the Ministry of Finance, is it in the interest of the entire market? Did it follow the processes laid down in the Public Financial Management Act? So the amount of money that we're talking about, is it well evaluated, and that's the true amount that should have been spent on the processes? Then the third one will be the top management and the directors. Is it true that they actually play some critical role in the collapse of the bank? How many directors are we talking about? Are they all involved in what we're talking about, especially in the case of UT and Capital that we're talking about, from 620 or 610 million? Is it the case that all the directors are involved in what we're talking about, or only few of them? So those are the things that I think will be the major things that will come. And then what should be the lesson? Would this lesson translate into new regulations, amendments in the regulation? So those are the things that I think will be the case. But the good thing that is bipartisan, and bipartisan in the sense that the interest of the financial market, the interest of the Ghanaian economy would drive the entire process so that there will not be, this kind of polarization within the entire process of the probe.
Now, the final question I have for you on all of this is the point that some people have made that even this almost 8 billion should have required parliamentary prior approval before the setup of even the consolidated bank in the first place. Are these things that you think about, and where does your thoughts lie on them?
I think ordinarily that is what it's supposed to be. But as to whether the situation under which the minister decided to engage in that expenditure can be accommodated by parliamentarians will be revealed during the probe. The first thing is that, is it actually an emergency situation? Is it not the case that we are aware that we are heading towards that, so that we could engage Parliament earlier than what we are doing now? Even now, I'm not sure that it is the Minister of Finance who is going to engage with Parliament. It is Parliament who is now calling. So I think the probe will assess all these situations and come to that conclusion. But if you read the Public Financial Management Act, it is very clear that any time you want to engage in expenditure on behalf of the people, approval ought to be sought from Parliament.
Okay, well, I guess we can leave it off here. Professor John Gachi is with the University of Cape Coast. His thoughts you heard there on perhaps the most important issues. I'm coming back in studio because my guest with me is the Honorable Benjamin Podo, who is a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament that held the earlier meeting today, seeking, among other things, to set a date and set a time and a place for the probe into the reasons why 7, or more importantly and more recently, 5 banks have collapsed in the Republic of Ghana. Honorable, let me come back to you. The last point he left off is what should be the focus. But you tell us, you agreed that you are going to do this probe. Why did you decide to make it in camera? That's if the decision is final.
First of all, let me say hi to Professor Gachi. He's clarified so many issues.
Okay.
Yes, and it's right on point. Those issues that he has talked to you about. Now, we decided that we would hold the meetings at the committee level. That is, we are not going public, put cameras and microphones on us, and be doing live coverage of our hearing. The issue is that we, as I told you earlier, we have to be concerned about the confidence in the banking system.
Okay.
Now, the nature and amount of information you put out into the public domain will determine how people react to the situation. It is therefore necessary that we manage this properly. You see, when we come out and let's say at a security meeting, as I was telling some of your colleagues today, we decide to say that, oh, we are going to buy AK-47 100 pieces from Korea, or we are going to buy an aircraft bomber from Japan. Do we come to the public to do those things? No. The financial system, to me, is even more sensitive. So we should be very careful as to what information we turn out. What we intend to do is hold the meeting, determine the issues, and then we will brief the public as much as we think is appropriate to retain confidence in the banking system. We are not out there to destroy anything.
But mindful of what is already out there, and there's a lot of information out there.
Well, you see, this matter is an issue which we even discussed. There is a lot of information already
out there.
But where did you hear? People are conjecturing, people are sending out rumors and all sorts of things.
Are you saying that the Boulders Advisors Limited report, the PwC reports on the utilization of
you can read
BOG
the document, but the
support, I mean, all of these details clearly cannot be said to be conjecture.
You can read the report, but the intention behind such reports have to be probed. And you don't necessarily say everything in public. We are not intending to hide anybody or cover anybody up. In fact,
that's not what it suggests to many anyway.
No, it is on a bipartisan basis. We have resolved that when we listen to all the stakeholders, we will make recommendations, and our recommendations will not exclude prosecution. Where it is necessary, people should be taken to the law court and punished as appropriate.
Okay. Have you ever recommended prosecution in any case before?
The matter should come before us.
I'm saying that, has the Parliament Finance Committee recommended prosecution in any matter before?
Oh, I haven't come across any such matter. Because even the first case, UT and Capital Bank,
yes,
when it happened,
yeah,
we invited BOG, we invited the receivers, PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. We invited them to the Finance Committee to give us the update on whatever they were doing. And they told us that the report was not concluded. So we had to wait. We asked them a second time when the BOG came before us, just before the media review. And they told us that they were preparing to report to us. And just then we went on the break. And during this break, these issues started coming up.
So it's been a year. You've not had any conclusive information.
Frankly speaking, that is the case.
You've not had any directives.
These reports which you keep on reading on your airwaves came after we rose. So we are even, as part of the requirement to be able to deliberate with the Bank of Ghana, asking that those reports should be tabled before us.
Isn't it interesting? Almost a year after Capital Bank and UT collapsed.
Well, it is not as if we slept. We kept on asking, and they kept also responding that, wait, we haven't finished yet. What shall we do? You cannot go and force a report out of the BOG's drawer.
Okay, so let's be clear. Now, would you be demanding those reports too?
Certainly. It's
from
part
Capital
of the
Bank and UT?
Certainly. All of them, all of the 7 banks which have gone under, we are expecting them to give us report. And let me tell you, we are not only inviting the Bank of Ghana, which is the regulator.
Yeah.
We are also going to bring in Ministry of Finance to find out their role in this. You know that...
you are of the considered opinion they might have played a role?
Sure. There are certain fiscal issues which we have to address. We've mentioned some of them already. Then, I mean, like, where did you get the money to establish BOG overnight? We are going to ask those questions. As in the
consolidated bank?
Yes. How are these bonds going to affect the fiscals and our balances? Then we are also hearing from some of the affected banks that government and its agencies had a big role to play. We want to find out.
Speculation.
For instance, contractors are saying that they are unable to pay back their loans to the collapsed banks because they were being owed by government agencies. We want to find out the truth. How much is government and its agencies really owing contractors who are indebted to the collapsed banks? We want to find out. And why haven't they been paid? If it is true that one of the banks, construction bank for instance, if it is true that contractors owed as much as they went into liquidity problems, then we can trace their problem to the doorsteps of the government. Then we also want to find out what roles did the shareholders and then the board of directors play in the collapse of these banks. What did they do? You see, somebody said this morning that an official of Capital Bank took $10 million cash to Zimbabwe to do a mining business.
Yes, an investment there.
Yes, a mining business, and the money was confiscated at the airport. Which is to say that that particular shareholder or director of the bank must come and explain and answer questions as to why he did such a thing. And if he must be prosecuted, why not? We'll make that recommendation in our recommendations to the regulator or the security agencies. We are also thinking of receivers. You know, PricewaterhouseCoopers was appointed as receivers to UT and Capital Bank. What is the update? What have they found?
Have they told you anything before?
They have. Yes, when the banks went under and they were appointed as receivers, they came to us. They told us what they had started, and
they just told you that they started work.
Yes, and we now.
And up to now, there's no report to you.
Oh, but they are all coming together. So if the BOG, which appointed them, could not come, now they are also depending on PwC's report.
Just wondering. It sounds to me like everybody went to sleep on this matter, and it's been.
I don't agree with you.
We waited for one whole year to happen.
You see,
they are now saying that we are going to do a probe of previous and now together.
Justice must grind, but normally, you know, it goes slowly.
Of course, I mean,
and you see, it's not like a military situation where you rush people who are doing technical work that tomorrow bring a report. So even if the report is shoddy, they present it to you. Then later you fall back and say, I should have waited a little. I should have done that.
But
so
how are you convinced?
Just wait.
Yes.
You see, you don't have to rush anywhere.
Because this is about the lives of people. It's about the stability of the financial sector. It's about the debt that we are incurring in the tune of 8 billion. This is no child's play. It's not something that should be taken lightly. And
it is not at all.
The demeanor of you in the Parliament's Finance Committee, your lack of anger, your seeming very lax approach towards it, is what's getting people worried. Again,
I don't think that you want me to sit down here on air where camera is fixed on me. We are being watched all across the country, and then I start shouting,
no,
banging
I'm talking about
the table.
No, sorry, I'm talking about you as a committee.
Yes, I'm saying
you don't
that
seem to be minded by the urgency with which people want results on this matter.
We depend on information coming from the regulators and the appropriate agencies to work with. So if they have not submitted the report to us, how do you expect the Finance Committee? Do you think the Finance Committee itself goes to investigate? No. We depend on reports brought to us. Then we interrogate the report.
Has the report been brought today?
That is not today. That is what I'm telling you, that we are scheduling these people who should appear before us. The receivers, the shareholders, if necessary, the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Ghana, who are the regulators. We are trying to bring them all between the 5th and the 7th of September.
2 days?
No, it will be 3 days. 5, 6, 7.
3 days?
Yes.
Just 3 days?
In succession. For us to hear what they have for us. Because you have to give them time. We've heard that some of the reports are about 300 pages. So we have to give them time to come and present their reports. We interrogate them. Then we sit. And then make our recommendations after we've deliberated on the content of what they are going to submit to us.
If it took the Finance Committee a whole year to get some response of our report may be ready from the Bank of Ghana on 2 banks, how really assured are you that it will take them just a few weeks to get the reports on the other 5 collapsed banks ready before your probe starts?
We will raise all of these issues before.
Merely raise them.
We will raise all of these issues before the people who are going to appear before us and ask them not to delay 1 year. We are going to bring them and then express the same sentiments that all across the country people are expressing before them. Oh, because the thing is getting worse.
You get the sentiments, right?
Yes.
The people are not excited by these developments.
Not at all. In fact, they are rather worried. They are wondering whether we have so much money in the system to bail out banks when we cannot do the Eastern Corridor Road, when we cannot pay fully for classroom blocks that can accommodate single track of our free senior high school students.
It's interesting to note that.
We are worried.
And in any case, we are asking for 600 million to be able to deal with that particular problem. But we have 8 billion to be able to actually do this.
Those are the concerns. And it has come on, let me borrow the word of Martin Amidu. It has reached a gargantuan status. And everybody has to be shaking himself in his chair.
What I see from where I sit, is that your probe is going to be a mere intellectual exercise. Because as we speak, there's no guarantee that the report you demand on these 5 banks is ready. The only guarantee you may have is that of Capital Bank and UT being ready. There's no guarantee that even if you recommend that there should be prosecution, there will be prosecution carried out in this case. In any case, I have seen,
Raymond,
I see the Parliament Public Accounts Committee virtually every year. Currently, they're still sitting, review some of these reports of the Auditor General. Nothing else gets to happen. Indeed, the audit implementation committees across the country don't even get to work on them. So it's business as usual for some of us.
Raymond, Parliament is a serious place.
I see.
You cannot sit here at the studio and attempt to denigrate Parliament.
No, I'm saying that from your evidence, from what you have done over the period, there is enough evidence to suggest that.
Are you aware that it's the Finance Committee that stopped the Ameri deal? Are you aware?
Yeah, I'm aware that happens once in a decade. Yes, I know.
I haven't been in Parliament for a decade.
Yes, I get the point that it hardly happens actually in this case.
You see, we are not living in a military regime.
No,
we are not living in a dictatorial
I'm saying that it sounds to everybody
situation.
That you are not as really compelled by the reality on the ground, including people in your constituency.
Let me caution you not to be contemptuous of Parliament.
I'm not suggesting anything like that.
Yes, if you think that we are not serious.
On the street, I'm saying that the other person
we have to make them
demanding
serious.
action.
Yes, and that's why we are taking. That's why we are taking these measures.
It's not the assurance alone that matters. We are saying that the Parliament is going to do another roundtable conversation, which is going to be a recommendation, but nothing will come out of it, as has happened consistently.
I can assure you that very positive things will come out of what we are going to do.
Do you know that the chairman of your committee and the ranking member both suggested that we go after the directors of both UT and Capital to retrieve the amount of money that we need from them, so we don't go for the 2 billion bond, and yet we still went for the 2 billion bond? Are you aware?
You see, we said these things all together.
Yes.
And
it had to happen to it.
Now,
we still went for the bond.
The point is that we have taken bonds. The government has taken bonds in order to maintain stability within the banking system. The alternative will have been that, okay, let these banks collapse, like how DKM collapsed. People lost their money. And in fact, if it happens in this particular, there will be a breakdown in the entire financial system because of the huge sums that people have lodged into these banks. It's not DKM matter. It's not even Piram matter.
Yeah.
The amounts are huge. You can just imagine. One day, people lose 8 billion Ghana cedis. What will be happening in their homes?
I get your point.
Yes.
I'm just saying that today, there's no evidence to suggest
you need
that
first to save the situation.
Yeah.
For the general public.
Okay.
Then you go after the people who caused it. So we have agreed. We have agreed.
Yes.
That we will go after the managers. I mean the top managers of these banks, the shareholders, investigate specifically the actions that they have taken, like the one I just referred to. If it is proven to be true, then that person cannot go free, because there are other laws like money laundering which can catch him up. You see the point? So,
regardless of the stature of the people in society.
Yes, that is what we are seeking for. That if you are a minister and you do it, you should not be left free. That is what we are. And fortunately for us, sometimes some misfortunes turn around to be rather good omen. Fortunately, the people involved are well known in society, very big people, and we are pushing that their actions should be investigated. But note that in Parliament, we do our part. We have law enforcement agencies. We have prosecutorial agencies, which have also to do their part. So if IOCO does its investigation, brings up dockets, then we send them to the Attorney General's department. The police, the Attorney General, where he's stealing and all that, they have to follow up. And it doesn't end there. When they are taken to court, the judges must also make sure that they deal with the cases as the public expects. you will know many armed robbers taken to court. What has happened to them?
I will come back to this point.
So
Honorable.
you don't limit the issue to Parliament's Finance Committee's recommendations.
And
there's a whole chain
I would
that
raise
will bring all of these people to book properly. And that is what we want to press for as a Finance Committee.
I'm privileged. I'll come back to this particular point, but we'll take a break here. And when we return, we'll still continue our conversation on Parliament's quest to probe the banks themselves, the Bank of Ghana, and also the Ministry of Finance on the recent financial mess that is causing a lot of havoc across the country on our front. You're welcome. This is Upfront. My name is Raymond Akwa. My guest in studio with us today is a member of the Finance Committee and the whole Central Member of Parliament. And we are looking at what is happening in Ghana. Defunct 7 banks, Parliament's quest to probe them, and whether or not this is going to be another 9-day wonder. And he is vehemently opposing the claim that this Parliament probe is really much to do about nothing. He says you're going to do a lot of work in that direction. But Honorable, you're welcome back.
Thank you once more.
My question, which is coming out of our final conversation before we left off, is whether or not there's history in your committee on the finance, what they call a committee, that you have recommended the prosecution of anybody in this republic and the person has been prosecuted.
Parliament has recommended prosecution of people, particularly from the end of the Public Accounts Committee.
I see.
Yes, a lot has been done about.
And you know they've
that.
been prosecuted? I just want to know one.
You see, I don't know how you perceive the role of Parliament.
No, I'm just saying
we are not bloodhounds.
Yes.
Yes. We do our work
You just
and let
recommend.
someone also take off from there. Where it is necessary, you've seen Parliament to hold people to come and face the entire committee of the whole.
I get you.
To answer queries. I was referring to a situation where the government wanted to change the formula for distributing the common fund, and we brought them back. They had to revert. So you cannot assume that Parliament is just a talk shop. In any case, if Parliament does not pass the Appropriation Act, there is nobody who can pay salary to teachers or to any government worker in the
And I have
hospital.
not seen in this republic,
Yes,
I'm not talking
you
about Liman's time, but I've not seen in this republic, the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana ever reject the budget.
So why are you referring
it's
to?
interesting.
Why are you referring to that one?
Which one?
The one that you
The Liman's time.
Yes.
Oh, but that was
Why-
not in this, what they call the Fourth Republic. The Fourth Republic is a different period altogether. In
It
this
was not
particular
Parliament.
case. It was not your kind of Parliament. We've known your kind of Parliament and what it can do in this case. Now, my question to you now is that
I'm
if you
questioning you.
admit that the group in Iyoko is already probing this matter, that means there's some action being done on the ground. If the Bank of Ghana has already given the assurance that they are going to ensure prosecution of the people involved and that the necessary dockets further to the right quarters on this matter, why is there a need to do a parliamentary probe too?
That does not take away from Parliament its oversight responsibility, which is constitutionally mandated. It does not. We can do a lot in addition to what the Bank of Ghana, whatever the courts are doing. We can do a lot more than even who established Iyoko.
Can the Parliament hold before it directors of the various banks?
Yes, if it's necessary.
Will you hold before you?
If it is necessary.
Honorable, your committee, what are your terms of reference?
Committee?
Yes.
You mean the committee in the Constitution?
Yes. I'm talking about your parliamentary committee.
We have oversight responsibilities.
Yes. So
we can probe into anything in the particular sector for which that committee is responsible.
In the probe you intend to do
But
on this collapse of the banks.
let me clarify this. We are not a court of justice.
I agree.
Yes, we are not a court of justice.
You're not.
So ours is to bring the issues up and
Bring them
make
up.
definite recommendations. And the recommendations must be implemented by the appropriate agencies.
I get your point.
Yes,
but the question
that is our role.
The question I was asking is whether
we determine also policies which are not, we can vary these things at committee level before they even come out.
The question I was asking specifically in this case was whether or not you as a committee in the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana had planned, as you'd seek to probe this matter, to invite the directors of the various banks.
I have listed to you those people we intend to question.
Forgive me and refresh my memory. I heard you talk about
I told you
the Bank of Ghana.
Bank of Ghana, the regulators,
yes.
The Ministry of Finance.
Yes, I've heard those.
The shareholders and directors where necessary.
Sorry, when you say where necessary, what does it mean?
Well, because you cannot go and hold the whole management of a particular collapsed bank to Parliament's Finance Committee.
I thought that would be...
So if based on the report that are submitted to us, we find a particular person culpable of being held before us, the person will be brought for further questioning. And when we also, as I told you, intend to bring the receivers who have been appointed by the BOG also to give us update. And so it is the consolidation of all the evidence we get from all these places that will determine our recommendation. I don't know how many times you want me to repeat this.
Can you hold the board chairman of Capital Bank?
If it is necessary, we will hold anybody. If we can hold or if we can invite, let's use a better word. If we can invite the Bank of Ghana governor to the Finance Committee, why can't we bring in any other managing director? In fact, the managing director of the biggest bank in Ghana has been brought to Parliament before, Ghana Commercial Bank.
I'm talking about...
Yes, so we can bring anybody.
I'm talking about board chairman of a defunct bank in this case. Are you saying you can hold before you?
If he is cited in whatever has caused the collapse of the bank, which is imposing difficulties on the Ghanaian public, the person will be invited.
And if he feels to come?
Then it's a contempt. Don't you know when you are invited by Parliament, you refuse to come? You are in contempt of Parliament. You don't know.
I see. That's what you do if the person fails to come.
If we invite the person and he fails to appear, that's a different thing altogether. Yes.
Now, this question surrounding the 8 billion and whether or not the bond has been raised, where it will be raised from, who's likely to pay at the end of the day, has it been resolved by Parliament?
No, we haven't resolved that. Normally, when the state takes bond, it is serviced from the public debt account. That initially, that is it. But I, personally, am of the view that if these monies are used to support those banks which take over, even if it is over the long term, the state should not bear the bond. But arrangements should be put in place such that the bank's operations should be able to service the debt. Let GCB, you agreed to take over the failing banks.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, you've taken some of the assets, you've taken the liabilities. You've changed a number of things. You've shed off people, you've shed off interest, and you have made all the operations of those banks part of your operation. So it should be able to assume the debt. That is my opinion. But it may not catch up with everybody's. Okay. But I think that if these monies, if you have accepted, if the government has accepted to establish a consolidated bank and raise money to give to the bank so as to take care of the operations of those 5 banks, then it should plan, even if in the long term, to repay the bond and not pass it on to the taxpayer.
Okay, I get the point.
That's my opinion.
Okay, I get your point.
I know it may be difficult for a new bank to assume responsibility for 5.76 billion and start servicing it. But there are various ways by which we grant facilities to banks. Some may be interest-free, some may attract minimal interest, it may have concessionary period. Let's apply all of these things and see how those banks which assume the failing ones or the failed ones to assume responsibility for the debt that has arisen.
The action steps for the Eagle project of the Bank of Ghana, which is a document put together by Borders Advisors Limited, asked to actually advise the Bank of Ghana on the way forward on this matter, detailed the persons responsible for specific actions with timelines. This document was authored on January 29, 2018. There's an interesting part which is making the rounds. It says in point 1.5 that all shareholders and ex-directors of Capital Bank, UT Bank, and Sovereign Bank should be made to undertake a written commitment of prohibition from any financial market institution for a period of 5 years. Is this something that's mindful of what has happened and the details that's keep coming out so far, you would support and you agree to? Honorable Podo.
It is already in the law. It is in the
Act 930?
banks. Yes, it's already in Act 930.
Okay.
That where a director of a bank is found to have committed a serious criminal offense, the person can be banned and from holding directorship of any other bank. In fact, even before a director is appointed for a bank, you have to seek clearance from the BOG, the Bank of Ghana. So if you are found to have been capable of this kind of thing, I don't see how a future Bank of Ghana will approve your appointment as director of a bank, save for the time limit that has been recommended for a particular punishment meted out to
5 years.
a particular director.
Is it punitive enough 5 years?
No, I don't think so.
You don't
I don't
think
think
so?
so. But the law is what should operate. You know, we cannot suggest that people should be crucified for life.
No, that's not crucifixion. We're just saying that
Because
mindful of the enormous nature of your conduct in
a
the office.
particular crime. But when you look at 5 years, I think in this particular case, it sounds too small for me. But they may be operating within the reasons that they have discovered as being responsible for them.
So your reason for saying it's too small, is it because of the enormity of the issues in this case?
It is because of the enormity. That's why listening to, but you see, I haven't got all the facts yet, and that is why we are asking for the committees to bring the reports to us. If it is true, all what we have heard, are people throwing reports here and there. But we want the committees, we want the various bodies to come and give us the real facts, the specific facts.
I get that point, but I heard you saying if it is true.
Yes, if it is true that somebody has taken $10 million in a bag and flown to Zimbabwe for a business, I think 5 years will be too small for him to return. Because in the sector, if you watch what happened, Raymond, you see that when Capital Bank was collapsing, another bank was emerging.
Yeah, from the process of the liquidity support.
Yes. So it's a cartel where they are just doing musical chairs and siphoning money from one bank to the... How? You want to establish a bank, you need to have capital yourself. You don't have. You go and borrow money. That is a loan to you. You come and use it as capital to establish another bank. Then now you are taking the money from the new bank and repaying that loan. That is criminal. You see, we don't have to allow such things. That is why if you give them the punishment for a longer period, they may not be able to do the same thing.
Thank you so much, Honorable. And that's where we end today's edition of Upfront. My name is Raymond Dalkwa. I